Would you like to understand the market dynamics of dating? Then listen to this entire video. In this video, I will delve into what determines the market value in the realm of dating of women, of ladies. Now, you may think that sounds rather cold and economic in a domain which is rather actually supposed to be romantic and human and chemical. I do agree, but I think dating is still a marketplace where people have market values. And the high market value is usually desirable. Now, this is my opinion. These characteristics of what determines the market value of a woman. These are just two characteristics. One is more obvious, and one is a little bit maybe some more takes a more alternative approach. Now, when we talk about the market value of people in dating, we always need to think in terms of the underlying forces, which, like in economics, are demand and supply. Roughly speaking, the higher demand for someone increases somebody's market value, and the lower supply of somebody increases their market. Wait, so higher demand increases market value, lower supply also increases market value. So you always want to think in terms of these two factors, demand and supply. So what behavior indicates a certain level of supply or demand? You can reflect on this for yourself. If you want to make yourself seem more attractive, like you have a higher market value, then always you can try out that thought game. Okay, so let's start. Characteristic number one, factor number one that determines market value. Attractiveness, obviously. If you look attractive, people typically want to be surrounded around you because people demand you more. Now, why is that? Well, people want to typically be surrounded by attractive people, I think, because they like to attribute themselves to this, let's say, group of attractive people. So it feeds your ego and it makes you feel like you're more attractive. This might be the case. And we seem to have like a deep foundational interpretation of attractiveness and value. Because something that indicates value is typically more pleasing, more aesthetic, more attractive. Like, you think the most beautiful houses usually are more expensive, the most beautiful cars are usually more expensive, and the most beautiful paintings are usually have a higher value. And the same goes for humans. Like, our ability to interpret value based on beauty is deeply fundamental, and you immediately absorb, if you see somebody attractive or less attractive, you immediately absorb that and rank them in a social hierarchy. And that is not a product of the patriarchy, it is a product of human nature, because we have lived for many thousands of years where social hierarchies determine your survival or your not survival, your death. And because humans are configured to survive, figuring out where you lie and where other people lie in comparison in a social hierarchy is fundamentally important. Hence, you have this fundamental instinct to interpret attractiveness as value or not, like as unattractiveness as lower value. Okay, now this is where it gets spicy, and I need to be very careful when I say with this. Okay, I think if a woman sleeps around a lot, so she has a lot of sex with a lot of guys, her market value goes down. Why? This is not sort of a means of slut shaming, and I do not want to slut shame, or you do what you want with your body. Perhaps, I'm not quite sure about that, if I should say that, but I'm just going to say it now. Now, why does sleeping around a lot reduce the market value of a woman? Okay. First of all, thinking in terms of demand and supply, her supply is high. She gives easy access to herself, Hence, it's less valuable if you get access to her. And I don't want to say like get access to her body or whatever, but just like generally have access to this person, her value goes down because she supplies it at a high level. Okay, continue. Now, the human endeavor of having kids is again a deeply fundamental thing. It's like it's a subconscious, maybe a purpose of life to have kids. Well, not probably, not maybe. I think it is a subconscious purpose. You know, you're configured to set out and try and have kids, to reproduce, so your genes propagate and survive. That's just like evolution. Now, so we're subconsciously always looking for kids, okay. So you're looking for a partner to have the kids with because you can't have kids alone, right? Now, when you have kids, in order to propagate the gene, you would like to raise healthy kids, right? Now, raising healthy kids is a costly, time-consuming, money-consuming, resource-consuming, and energy-consuming endeavor. It requires serious caution because children are physically and mentally very fragile, you know? They're little things, so they're physically fragile, and also mentally because their brain is very, malleable, and they can be easily traumatized, and the trauma can carry out for the rest of the child's life. I always say, like, if you want to mess up a person, do it when they're a kid, because, don't do it, but if you want to, like, a person is, like, traumas get deeply ingrained in a person when they are a child, because they're so malleable, and it sort of molds the brain for the rest of the human's life, unless it gets processed properly, but that's difficult, I think. So, in order to raise a healthy kid, the parents need to protect the children from these physical and mental risks. Now, giving easy access to her body, like the mother, may indicate that she cannot protect herself well because she gives easy access. Like, having sex is actually, people don't think of it like this, but it's actually quite a dangerous, a dangerous exercise, let's say, because you have the risk of STDs. You have the risk of getting kids, let's say, in the first place, and that's dangerous for a woman because, it takes 9 months to carry, and then you have to raise it for 18 years, and raising a kid, like I said, is a seriously time, energy, and resource-consuming, money-consuming endeavor. And if you get a kid without the support of people around you, it's going to be a tough one. And the ability to raise a healthy kid then, if you just have a single parent, is lower. That's scientifically proven. So, when you get pregnant, you sort of need to take care of your body and respect your body, not just to like raise the healthy child. And if you give easy access to your body, like you increase your supply, and it might, like, I think people interpret that as a lower ability to respect her body, and then hence a lower ability to raise and protect a healthy kid, I think. Besides, I think it might also indicate a woman's reduced ability to stay in a relationship. I think it's also statistically shown that people who have slept around more are less able to stay in permanent long-term relationships afterwards. And I think humans, like, you also interpret that if somebody sleeps around, it's like a higher risk that they will cheat on you, or not cheat on you, but leave you. And, if you want to have a family and a permanent, stable family, having the risk of somebody leaving, like a fundamental, a cornerstone of the family, that's going to inhibit the healthy growth of the kids. Hence, you don't want that. Hence, the market value of the woman goes down if she sleeps around a lot, because you see it as a risk of her leaving you, or not sticking around, or not being able to stick around. And in this case, the supply factor is stronger than the demand factor, because one could say, well, if she sleeps around a lot, doesn't that mean she's in high demand, and then her market value would go up? No, I don't think so. This is interesting because I think it's different for men. I think women interpret a guy who sleeps around a lot as somebody who's in high demand, and hence value the man more. He seems more attractive because he's in high demand, and that's different for women. And I think it is because of the getting children and raising children and getting pregnant quality in women that you want them to sort of be very discriminative of how they treat themselves and how they behave because you want to raise healthy kids. And I don't mean this in like a anti-women sort of thing. I think it's just like a biological. I have to be careful. I wouldn't call it a truth because I'm not sure about it, but I think it's just a biological sort of attribute to women that, you know, if you want to raise a healthy kid, like if you look at it, 18 years of raising a kid is a serious challenge. And if you one doesn't have the discipline to respect or sort of protect one's body, then I think it's indicates a lower ability to raise a healthy kid. And you know, in modern times, you know, people really encouraged to be free with their bodies, you know. Okay. But I don't think we fully consider what the consequences of these endeavors are. Especially because this is a relatively new trend in the history of humankind that women are able to have, well, also men, but mainly women now, able to have free sex. Well, not free sex, but like the cost or the potential risk of having sex out of a relationship or marriage is a lot lower now because of the birth control pill, which has only been around, I believe, since the 1960s, late 1950s, 1960s, something like that. And in the whole history of time, that has not been the case because of, you know, you could get STDs, and if you would have a child outside of marriage, you may likely been banished from your community because it would have been seen as sort of a disgrace or so, which is obviously not good. But this is, we're playing with a biological it's not a shift, it's a cultural shift, I'd say, but where the biology is still the same. That with having kids, of course, you can avoid it with the birth control pill, but yeah, we don't really know what effect that has now, being able to express our sexuality freely. Okay, so these were two factors that determine, I believe, the market value of a woman in dating, which is attractiveness and the degree of her sexual openness, let's say. Yeah, so I hope you learned something in this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about self-development, how to reduce suffering, and also dating like this video. So thank you for listening.